So what's the Grape Explorer talking about today? So if anybody knows me, I'm an adventurous lad, and I'm going to talk about something that really never ever gets talked about, especially from France. Now, you know, I spend a lot of time talking about Bordeaux and Burgundy and Rhone, and you know, those are very, very passionate areas for me. But I'm going to talk about an area that really nobody ever talks about. Guess what? Guess what it's called? It's called Corsica. Oh, all the way down here. Look at that. So you get your big map of France, Appellation, and we got Corsica here, and we picked out a wine from the area of Patrimonia, which is right here. So you can see, and this map does not really do justice to the proximity of France and Corsica, so they kind of plugged it along here. It's not really quite that close, but at least I wanted to plug in here and talk about this wine today, which is Patrimonia. And, you know, one thing I did want to bring up, you know, close to the late 80s, when I had my wine company in South Florida, or let's just say Florida, because I was selling all over Florida's big state. You know, I had some importers that I was trying to spend some time, you know, promoting. And one of the guys that I thought was really interesting was Kermit Lynch. So I was Kermit Lynch's distributor for a few years, you know, but at the same time, I always found him an adventurous guy because he actually would bring in wines from all different areas. Of course, he was always bringing wines from Burgundy that was really near and dear to his heart. He had wines from the Rhone. But, you know, come to find out today, Kermit Lynch represents close to 8 or 9 producers in Corsica. That's very adventurous because guess what? You know, I get contacted by people in Corsica, and it's just not an area that I really want to import at this time because I just feel it's a more difficult area. So I'm going to give a shout out to Kermit Lynch, you know, who, again, I respected for many, many years. Actually, you know, a guy like Kermit actually pushed me a little bit so I could actually travel through France and make my own discoveries. And, you know, he kind of led the way for a lot of, if you want to say, importers who really wanted to spend time, because I'd say it's adventurous, but it's very hard to sell a lot of these wines because a lot of people do not know these wines. So shout out to Kermit Lynch, shout out to what he tries to do. It's very, very important for me to bring that up. So the second thing is we wanted to spend the time and zoom in on this label because this is a very, very interesting property. This is called Giacometti. And yes, that is an Italian name because guess what? A lot of the producers in that area of Corsica are Italian through their heritage. So we're going to spend time talking about the 2 grapes here, which are very, very unique. The first one is called Nia Lucio. 90% of this wine is Nia Lucio. That is the grape. That's the predominant grape in the area of Patrimonia. And then 10% of another grape that grows very widely is called Sciacarello. And these are basically clones of Sangiovese that grow in Tuscany. So as you know, Sangiovese is quite a unique grape in Tuscany, of course. But Sangiovese has different clones that grow all over Italy. You can find them in Latium, and you can find them also in Abruzzo. You know, you can find them in all different areas this grape is growing, but there's close to over 50 clones of Sangiovese, so this is actually a clone. But we're going to talk about Corsica in a very, very, very unique position. So, but I wanted to smell this wine, and this is what I call volcanic wine. And when I say that, what does volcanic mean? Well, if you followed some of our other videos, we talked about Priorat in Spain having volcanic soils. So obviously, Corsica being a volcanic island, it tends to, like even in Sicily, like in Etna, you get a lot of that smoky kind of quality to the fruit. And when you smell this wine, you get that burnt embers. That's kind of interesting. No, it's very haunting, by the way, because if you think about the volcanic soil that exists, the vines are going down into the ground and they're pulling up any kind of water or any type of nutrients that come from the soil. But because of this grape, you're getting a lot of dried fruits, very Mediterranean in style. This does not taste like anything that France has to offer. It does taste more like an Italian wine, but if you ever want to give this wine a try, you really have to try it with food. I would suggest highly having something hearty like a steak or any kind of stews. So when you smell this wine, again, you're getting that volcanic kind of soil, which is really haunting. Burnt embers, beautiful. Wow, you get a lot of mineral. You get those dried fruits. Reminds me more of an Italian style of wine than a French wine. But at the same time, we also wanted to bring up one of our favorite characters in French history is Napoleon. His actual family were vineyard owners, and we wanted to highlight that a little bit because his family was from all the way over, and they were from Ajaccio, which is right here. See, look. So we're talking about patrimony here, Ajaccio here. This is where Napoleon was from, and his family were winemakers in this area. So we wanted to give a little bit of shout out to our favorite character, Napoleon, as I always try to. Yeah, we can point it out on the map. Ajaccio, right there. That's where Napoleon was from. He was actually exiled to back to Corsica when he actually left. But we wanted to give a little shout out to Napoleon because we always feel he was a very strong character in French history. But at the same time, if you didn't know your history, he was Corsican, and this is where he came from. So his family was really into wine. And of course, we have to thank Napoleon for a lot of wines in France because he also touted a lot of wine in geographical areas in France. But I wanted to spend some time, again, discussing this because a lot of people do not talk about Corsica. They do not talk about the history of Corsica. We're going back to the Phoenicians. Now, those were the ones that actually discovered Corsica. And it was fought over for many countries fighting over. Finally, France is nestled in. But we're talking Italian producers in France. Corsica, again, this is a grape explorer. I'm always trying to identify very unique wines that we can bring to the plate. Cheers.